Ghislaine Maxwell, in her own words, describing life in her new prison home. I feel like I have dropped through Alice in Wonderland's looking glass.
She is a monster. She's worse than Epstein. She did things even worse than Epstein did.
What's the first thing that jumps out at you and screams, hey, something ain't right here?
An ex-prisoner who was alleged to have shared prison with Ghislaine Maxwell is now speaking up, claiming there's a whole different side to life behind bars for her. And it's nothing like what most inmates experience. It is now being rumored that she lives a great life of luxury, and even the footage of her inside prison and in the recent video deposition could be of a body double.
The first thing that jumps off is, that's not her nose. That's not her nose. That's not her.
After being convicted and sentenced to 20 years for child connected to Giuffre Epstein, Maxwell was first locked up in a medium security prison in Florida. But then something strange happened. She was suddenly moved to a minimum security federal prison camp in Bryan, Texas, a place usually meant for non-violent white-collar offenders. The transfer came right after backlash exploded over the Department of Justice and FBI, saying they found no secret client list tied to Epstein. Not long after that announcement, Maxwell met with Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche. When asked directly if such a list ever existed, the answer was simple: there is no list. Now we know that was a lie. Days later, Maxwell was on the move. And once she arrived in Texas, she started emailing friends and family, telling a completely different story from what most people imagine prison to be. The food is legions better. The place is clean, the staff responsive and polite, she wrote happily. But understandably, people were angry. And not just on the outside of prison. Reports started surfacing that Maxwell wasn't just adjusting to prison life, she was getting perks.
Specially prepared meals, bottled water, a dog to play with. Fellow inmates are claiming that Giuffre Epstein's former girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell, is getting special treatment behind bars. This comes as the feds release 3 million pages from the Epstein files.
Is Giuffre Epstein's former girlfriend getting special treatment behind bars? There's growing outrage over reported perks being handed to Ghislaine Maxwell, now serving 20 years for child trafficking.
Does it sound like she's getting special treatment to you?
I know for a fact she's getting special treatment.
Les Trent spoke to Sam Mangle, a prison consultant who has 3 clients at the same facility as Maxwell, the Bryan Federal Prison Camp in Texas.
Whether it's access to a laptop computer, which is unheard of, to visits where they lock down the camp and no one can leave their bunks while she's having visitors.
Allegations of other perks, according to the New York Times, include meals being delivered to her cell and being served bottled water while other inmates drink tap water, playing with service dogs, showering alone, and watching TV alone in staff-only areas. They even provided her with an umbrella to shade her from the hot Texas sun while she took her daily walks.
And according to reports, inmates were warned from the very first day she arrived. Do not talk about her. Do not write about her. Do not mention her on the phone. Anyone who caused trouble could be thrown into solitary confinement or transferred to a tougher prison. Meanwhile, the Justice Department refused to comment on this. Why? Maxwell's lawyer pushed back at the criticism, saying, "It's time to get over the fact that she's in a safer facility. We should want that for everyone." But not everyone agrees. The family of survivor Virginia Roberts Giuffre strongly rejected the idea that Maxwell should be living in what feels more like a fenced neighborhood than a hard prison with bars. But following all this criticism, Virginia would mysteriously die by not long after, with many people raising suspicion about the timing and manner of death.
But it was this social media post made in March this year that first alerted the world Virginia was in trouble.
And Prince Andrew's accusers, Virginia Giuffre, is tonight in a Perth hospital.
She is fighting for her life after a bus crash, and a serious crash which has left her with just days to live.
She had been a passenger in a car hit by a school bus, a crash she alarmingly claimed left her so injured she only had 4 days left to live. It was a private post Virginia accidentally made public, but instead of sympathy, the general response was immediate scepticism and derision. Doubt, Virginia's brother, Danny Wilson, says was unfair and unfounded. It was an alarming post to read that Virginia had been told that she had 4 days to live.
So I spoke with the doctors, and They told me she was in very serious shape and she had 0 kidney function. What the doctor had told her was like, untreated in your condition with 0 kidney function, if you do not get treatment, you got about 4 days before your body poisons itself.
Then she comes out publicly and says, it was intended to be a private message. My excuse, thank
Again?
you. No, just on that, I have 5 days to live. And then a month later, or how 3 weeks later, she's dead by... Nothing about this story makes any sense whatsoever, any more than I'm expected to believe that Epstein killed himself. She also previously had tweeted, if ever I'm not suicidal, although I think whenever someone takes to social media to say that unironically there's something going on, she posted a while back, I'm not suicidal, here you go. Making it publicly known that in no way, shape, or form am I suicidal. I have made this known to my therapist and GP, I think the general practitioner. If something happens to me in the sake of my family, do not let this go away and help me to protect them. Too many evil people. Dude, we were on the cusp of Epstein documents being released, seeing clients on that list. Virginia Giuffre is the most credible of the last of the living witnesses, the last public of the witnesses. And instead of the release of the documents, we have the death of the most prominent living testament to the horrors of the Epstein, Ghislaine, Prince Andrew, allegedly human trafficking. So none of it makes any sense. I don't believe that she took her own life. People are going to say whether or not she's even dead. If she wants to disappear from the face of the earth, this is how you do it, because maybe she just wants to not deal with this anymore. But I won't believe ever that she deliberately took her life.
Vinny.
Now, as millions of pages from the Epstein investigation have been released, the pressure is building again. The grapevine is suggesting the environment around her feels less like punishment and more like protection. Some are even questioning whether the special treatment is about keeping her comfortable or keeping her quiet. In a case already filled with secrets, powerful names, and unanswered questions, could it be just that Maxwell is serving time? Or is there a bigger plan unfolding behind those Texas fences? That's exactly what we're going to investigate in this video. Since the rumors about Maxwell's prison life have come out, the speculation surrounding her true role in operations and her future has only intensified. So when Ghislaine Maxwell finally appeared by video before the House Oversight Committee, people expected answers. Lawmakers had questions. The public had questions. Survivors had questions. Instead, Maxwell said nothing. Over and over again, she pleaded the fifth, refusing to answer a single question.
Ms. Maxwell, were you a close friend and confidant of Giuffre Epstein?
I would like to answer your question, but on the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer this question and any related questions. My habeas petition is pending in the Southern District of New York. I therefore invoke my right to silence under the Fifth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution.
Let the record reflect that Ms. Maxwell has invoked the Fifth Amendment against self-incrimination. Ms. Maxwell, please be very clear. Are you declining to answer the question put to you solely on the ground that you believe the answer will incriminate you?
I invoke my Fifth Amendment right to silence.
To many watching, it felt like another door slamming shut. But then her lawyers dropped a bombshell. They said there is one thing that could make her talk: a pardon from Donald Trump. Her attorney, David Oscar Marcus, made it clear. He said Maxwell is prepared to speak fully and honestly if she's granted clemency. He even claimed that both President Trump and former President Bill Clinton are innocent of wrongdoing, and that only Maxwell can explain why. Only she can provide the complete account, he said. Some may not like what they hear, but the truth matters. That statement instantly changed the mood in Washington. Does she have some sort of the deal with the White House? Trump has faced heavy scrutiny over his past connections to Jeffrey Epstein. Photos from years ago show them at social events, including at Mar-a-Lago back in 2000. There is also proof of them having regularly been in correspondence.
David, the president today reminded people he has the power to pardon Ghislaine Maxwell. Is that something that you're going to be in?
For testimony or anything like that? Of course, everybody knows Miss Maxwell would welcome any relief. She's been in very difficult conditions for 5 years, and so she would welcome any relief. It's the right thing to do, and we have faith that the right thing will happen sooner rather than later.
Did you get any sense of the goal of this interview?
Sorry?
Did you get a sense of what the goal of the interview was for prosecutors?
The goal is the truth. It's time for the truth to come out.
The House Oversight Committee received a copy of the birthday album on Monday as part of a batch of documents from Epstein's estate. In this letter, it says, quote, "A pal is a wonderful thing. Happy birthday. And I may even be another wonderful secret." So a live picture right there in Washington, D.C. at the White House. As Trump has said, he did not write the letter or create the drawing of the curvaceous woman that surrounds the letter, and he filed a $10 billion lawsuit against the Wall Street Journal for earlier reporting on his link to the letter. The letter bearing Trump's name and what appears to be his signature includes text framed around this drawing. The release of the drawing comes as the president has for months faced increasing pressure to force more disclosure in the case of Epstein and his former girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell.
Trump has always denied visiting Epstein's private island or doing anything wrong. Now, Maxwell's team is suggesting she could clear his name, if he clears hers first. Trump has said he is legally allowed to pardon her, but claims he hasn't really thought about it. At one point, he told reporters it would be inappropriate to discuss. Other times, he said he hasn't ruled it in or out.
Consider a pardon or a commutation for Ghislaine Maxwell if she cooperated?
It's something I haven't thought about. It's really something. It's something I'm allowed to do it, but it's something I have not thought about.
The White House says it's not something he's talking about right now. But the internet certainly has its theories on what's really happening behind the scenes. One person said Maxwell would have to do much more than say Trump is innocent. To get a pardon, she'd probably have to provide damning testimony about Trump's enemies. Another added, she is rotting in a minimum security prison. She was moved there after she talked with Trump's lawyers. My theory is that Trump made a deal with her to keep her mouth shut about Trump's child, and she would be moved to a kosher jail and then pardoned as his last act of Trump's presidency. But Democrats aren't buying it. Representative Suhas Subramaniam accused Maxwell of campaigning for a pardon. He suggested that as long as a pardon is possible, she has no reason to cooperate. Outside the halls of Congress, survivors of Epstein's abuse sent a powerful message. They warned lawmakers to treat anything Maxwell says with utmost skepticism. In their letter, they accused her of lying under oath before and refusing to cooperate in the past.
A woman who was trafficked from Cape Town to Jeffrey Epstein's private island has revealed details of the that she suffered. Juliette Bryant says she feared for her life, describing how she was trapped in the invisible chains. And a warning, this report contains details that some viewers might find distressing.
This playground for the rich and famous was a hunting ground for Jeffrey Epstein, who recruited victims from all the way here on Africa's southern coast.
This lavish Cape Town neighborhood is where we've been told Jeffrey Epstein had an apartment. And his base here in South Africa shows just how wide-reaching his trafficking ring was. And his victims here have told us that 20 years on, they're still reeling from the aftershocks of his abuse.
She told me that her friend was here from America and his name was Jeffrey Epstein. And she said he was like the king of America.
Juliette Bryant was a first-year university student and part-time model when she was ensnared by Epstein in Cape Town.
I just turned 20 and it just seemed like my dreams were all coming true.
Her first trip out of South Africa was to New York, where she says she abruptly found herself on the way to the Caribbean, sat next to him on his private jet to Epstein Island with the women he used to recruit her.
Like basically, as the plane took off, he started forcefully touching me in between my legs. And I just freaked out, and I suddenly realized, oh my God, my family aren't going to see me again. These people might, I got such a fright. It was such a huge changing thing for me, and I suddenly realized I had to just be nice and be friendly because I realized that I was in great danger.
So I think it's highly problematic that anyone would consider negotiating with a serious criminal like this. And I think it would just really be indicative of guilt in some way, because we know that she is not a credible source of information.
And you say to her victims, as you know, she has repeatedly said that she had no involvement directly with actually abuse.
Yeah, I can speak, very personally to the fact that that's not true. She was towards me, and there's so many other crimes that she committed that she wasn't even prosecuted for. There were 4 of us that testified at her trial, but I have now met so many women who say it was because of Ghislaine Maxwell that I ended up being, sometimes for years, and that she was at times involved in that herself. So she was a very central figure.
Whitney Webb has since pointed out something important. Maxwell isn't just sitting in prison quietly serving time, she has a legal appeal still pending, a habeas petition in New York trying to challenge her conviction. Her lawyers likely warned her, don't say anything that could damage that appeal. Legally, she has the right to stay silent. But the thing is, some of the questions weren't complicated. They weren't traps. One of the first questions was about her close relationship with Epstein, something that has been documented for decades with photos, witnesses, and public records. Yet she wouldn't even confirm that. To Webb, that says something.
But what's interesting here is the framing of the question, right? Were you a close friend and confidant of Jeffrey Epstein? I mean, this is established fact. There are decades of documentation, photographs, witness testimony showing that Maxwell and Epstein had an extremely close relationship. She was, arguably his closest associate. So the fact that she won't even confirm that basic, well-documented fact tells you how afraid she is of implicating herself further, or more importantly, implicating others.
Whitney Webb argues that this silence is more about leverage than anything.
So now they're getting into the core allegations, right? Did you recruit, groom, or young women and girls? And again, she's invoking the fifth. Now, she's already been convicted of these crimes, so you might ask, why won't she just deny it or explain herself? Well, I would argue it's because anything she says could open up new lines of investigation. If she starts answering questions about her role, then they can ask follow-up questions about who else was involved, where the money came from, who knew what and when, and that's a Pandora's box that, a lot of powerful people do not want opened. What's also important to point out here is the pattern. She's not selectively invoking the fifth on certain questions and answering others. She's invoking it on everything, which suggests that her legal team has advised her that there is basically no question she can safely answer without potentially incriminating herself or others.
Webb even pointed to what happened to Epstein himself, officially ruled a suit, but surrounded by endless suspicion and unanswered questions. Maxwell has publicly hinted that she believes powerful forces were involved in deaths around her father and Epstein. So, from her point of view, talking could be dangerous.
There are numerous accusations from victims that they were tricked to other powerful men. Politicians, businessmen, academics, people in Epstein's orbit, and Maxwell won't answer that. Which, if she had nothing to hide about facilitating these encounters with other men, why not just say no? The fact that she's invoking the fifth suggests that there is something there, and that, answering honestly could expose other individuals who, as far as I'm aware, have not been held accountable.
Webb believes this case was never just about two individuals. It was about a network. Powerful people, institutions, connections that stretch into politics, business, and elite circles.
Maxwell going to prison, Epstein allegedly dying by suicide. These are, sacrifices to protect the larger structure. So what do we do with this? Well, I think we keep asking questions. We keep demanding accountability. We keep connecting the dots, because Maxwell's silence, in a way, speaks volumes. If there was nothing more to this story, if it was just her and Epstein acting alone, why wouldn't she say that? Why wouldn't she cooperate and potentially reduce her sentence by exposing others? If there were others to expose, the fact that she won't tell you everything you need to know, there's more to this story, a lot more, and the people who don't want that story told are very powerful.
If it were truly just Maxwell and Epstein acting alone, why not say that? Why not clear the air? Why not reduce her sentence by exposing others? As the story keeps unfolding, the picture only gets more intense. Back in 2020, one of the most well-known accusers in the case, Virginia Roberts Giuffre, sat down for her first major interview after Ghislaine Maxwell was denied bail. She spoke to Gayle King on CBS This Morning, and what she said added another layer to everything.
Giuffre claims Maxwell, along with Epstein, recruited and abused her. She lives in Australia now. She's married with 3 children, and we talked to her yesterday. She told us that she thinks Ghislaine Maxwell should spend the rest of her life behind bars.
She is a monster. She's worse than Epstein. She did things even worse than Epstein did. She was vicious, she was evil, and she was a woman.
Her lawyers have said Ghislaine Maxwell is not a Jeffrey Epstein, that she has been a victim of media spin.
They're doing their job, but I know that woman. I've known her really well. Put it this way.
In her words, Epstein was like Pinocchio, and Maxwell was Geppetto, the one pulling the strings. Giuffre claimed that Maxwell wasn't just standing next to Epstein. She said Maxwell recruited her when she was just 16 years old, approached her while she was working at Mar-a-Lago, and offered what sounded like a dream opportunity. She described Maxwell as calculating, smart, controlling.
I told them a little bit about my past and how I'd been so immediately it was like the Cheshire smile is what I call it. And I asked her, I said, why are you having all these girls come in and sleep with your boyfriend? And she was like, so I don't have to do it all the time. You know, so she made like a joke out of it.
Why do you think she did it?
She did it to keep Giuffre happy, for sure. She did it because she loves the control over people. Giuffre was a sick but she was the mastermind.
What would justice look like for you when it comes to Ghislaine Maxwell?
I would like to see Ghislaine stay in jail forever. I'd like her to apologize for what she's done to me and so many others.
When Jeffrey Epstein took his own life, many of the victims/survivors felt that they had been robbed, that they did not get their day in court.
It would have been great to look at him in court and say, you know, you hurt me, you took away my innocence, you took away my youth, but he took that away from us too. I'm really hoping we get to do this with Ghislaine.
Does the buck stop with Ghislaine Maxwell, in your opinion?
No, the buck stops when every single monster gets held accountable and our children are safe. Not just my monsters, but all the monsters. And we need everyone's help.
Now, it's not just the theory that Ghislaine could be fast-tracked out of prison that has the internet talking, but apparently also the rumor that the woman you saw in the deposition and cell footage, she may not be Ghislaine Maxwell at all.
As I could. And when I got all three photos in place, there were two things that jumped off the screen right off the bat. See if it's as noticeable to you as it was to me as I show you an older picture of Ghislaine.
Well, the first thing that jumps off is that's not her nose. That's not her nose. That's not her.
It's Eugene Levy. It looks like
yeah, what is that? Eugene Levy? Who is that? Is that Robert
Jimmy,
Blake
look,
with a black wig?
I'm sorry to be the expert here, but there's really only one way we can tell, and that's looking at them.
Okay, here we go.
Sorry.
Maxwell before she went into prison. What's the first thing that jumps out at you and screams, hey, something ain't right here?
It's the nose, for sure. The nose is 100% different. 100% different, but also the ears and the eyes. He's going to tell you. Watch.
Was for me, number one, it was the nose. Look how right here, right before she went to prison, she's got kind of a W-shaped nose. It kind of dips down. Right here, it's completely absent. You don't see that. So here's before, here's after. Now look at the line. This line right here goes from ear top to ear top, but then right here, it goes through the top of her ears. It looks like there's maybe a 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch on the top. This right here is the very top. Now, I understand there's lighting, there's camera angle. This camera angle right here could be down like this. This camera angle could
Those
be
are not the
pointed
same
up,
ears.
which would kind of make things seem just a little bit uneven. But the next thing that jumped out at me was her eyelids. Apparently, there are a couple different kind of eyelids I'm learning, the monolid and the double lid. In this pre-prison photo, you can see that she has two monolids. This right here kind of is a double, but it goes mono right there. And this is totally mono. And yet from the deposition photo, clearly two double lids. And I'm thinking, okay, what is going on here? So I grabbed a third photo from her younger days, and you can see that a young Ghislaine Maxwell had the same thing that this Ghislaine Maxwell had. See right here, partial double, and then it goes on to mono. In her younger days, partial double goes on to mono. This right here is clearly mono with a partial double right there, which is consistent with this photo as well. Partial double goes on to mono, partial double goes on to mono. But then when you look at the February 9th deposition photo, full double eyelids.
Full double.
But the most glaring thing is that nose. I mean, look at this right here. The eyes are pretty much lined up. That's another thing too. You can see this goes pupil to pupil, but then when you go to her pre-prison photo, it's kind of on the outside of her left eye, which is on our right side.
The bigger question now isn't just what Maxwell knows, it's whether the full structure around Epstein, financial, political, social, will ever be completely exposed. Because as long as key figures stay silent, and as long as documents trickle out in pieces, the public will keep asking, who else knew? Who else was involved? And will anyone else ever be held accountable? Let us know what you think in the comments down below.